Another Bald Explorer live. I'm continuing my reading of HV Morton's I Saw Two Englands. The last glimpse of pre-war England and his first glimpse of England at war. And I'm going to be reading it this afternoon from Chapter 1 continued. We started this yesterday. Hello to Steve G. Nice to see you there, sir. Hope you are well. Hope all is well today. So it's a nicer day than it is yesterday in terms of the wind, although it is still a bit cooler, I've noticed. Hello to Turbo Stream. How are you? Hope you're salvaging your videos after your terrible day with the blurred stuff. I know how that is. Oh golly, how do you pronounce yours? Oninbriders. Oninbriders. I hope that's right. Hello to you, Oninbriders. Good afternoon, lovely Julia. Sorry, my lunch is repeating on me. Lunch. Can you hear how it repeats? Lunch. Sorry, silly mood. Turbo Stream, cloudy and quite chilly in the Shire. Oh, in the Birmingham Shires. It's sunny down here. It is a little bit chilly. There's a bit of a wind, but not quite as aggressive wind as it was yesterday. So that's all good. So we're going to kick off with this. I need to find the perfect book rest. I had a strange contraption that my father had made. I don't know where I put it now. It was in here somewhere. Strange contraption my father had made many, many years ago that you put your book on it and it holds... Actually, this is probably too big anyway. And it holds it at this sort of angle. A homemade thing. Turbo Stream, very nice, and cheeky man says... Not cheeky, I mean... Suave and sophisticated man says, perfect to be inside to listen to your reading. I hope I read very well. I actually bumped into a lady. I don't know whether she's going to be watching. She's probably at work, so maybe she'll watch after the event this morning in Morrison's, who said that she was watching the readings as well as the videos. And I said, I apologise for not reading so well. And she said, no, we quite like it like that. We quite like it. It's just not... It's good, but it's not sort of overly produced. I said, it was definitely not overly produced here. Good afternoon to Audrey. Nice to see you there. Andy, Frierson, Ben, Reeve, Chile in Buckinghamshire and Oxfordshire border too. All the shires are being slightly chilled at the moment. Well, at least you're chilling, which is good. Ed Loud is doing the theme tune to the wrong show. Yeah. Brian Davis, good afternoon from sunny Kettering. Oh, lovely. Nice to have a bit of sunny shining in Kettering. And Omni Bridges, I have a book stand that looks like a mini deck chair. Oh, yeah. I think my dad's contraption. Oh, if only I could find it. If only I could lay my hands immediately on the mess that is currently the studio. I do have... I've got to be careful where I pull out, really, because some things are attached to the wires. Oh! I had an issue. Came in the studio, you get so used to pressing a few buttons and everything just fires up. Came in the studio and pressed the buttons and nothing happened. And I thought, oh no, a fuse has gone or a plug has gone or something. But actually I'd pulled the plug out when I was borrowing the lights or something else. This is one of those shop display... No, it's completely the wrong... Yeah, that wouldn't work. Oh, well, that was a silly idea. Anyway, enough of this nonsense. Let me just pull my trousers up at the knees. Slightly personal. But you know how your trousers can, when you bend your legs, they can... men might have this issue. Women probably don't. They they go tight around your thighs as you sit, and you just pull them up a bit. I don't know why I told you that, but that's what I was doing. Don't get yanking on stuff. No, I know. The things are likely to turn on. In fact, oh yes, that light is off. That's good. The Vogue show light. I must reorganise this studio. I just don't really. I need to get some shelves, some proper shelves. I want 2 nice, very simple shelves, but like wire, black. Well, I know what I want. Well, anyway, two narrow shelves, one that side and one that side. So either side of me, they're there. And one has all my stuff on, and the other one would have the stuff that viewers had sent in, with perhaps a couple of little spotlights, not spotlights, but tiny little micro lights on them, just lighting them a bit, so it all looks a bit more suave than the clutter. I am actually hiding a lot of the clutter, but anyway. Steve G says lay it on its back. Oh, that's a good idea. I'm glad someone's clever. Oh, like that. Oh, yes, there we go. Ha ha ha! I've got to move my... Hang on, let's move all this junk that's in the way. See, what you can't see, the chef gets away with, as they say. Yeah, that's pretty good. There we go. Well done. Thank you very much. Marvellous. Hello to Ramiboo. Hello to IKEA. No, I'm not going to IKEA. I will not. I refuse. I don't mind having second-hand IKEA stuff, but I am not going there first-hand. Absolutely not. There's plenty of second-hand furniture shops. I'll find something. When we're allowed to go back in, there's no rush. Good afternoon, everyone, says Busy Bee. Hello to Edo Vet. Looks okay the way it is. I know, I just like to I don't want it to look too slick, but just less, less messy. Anyway. Just before I start, before I forget, I am thinking of moving the time again. I'm so sorry, but moving it to 4 o'clock my time, so 2 hours from now. How does that sound? I feel a bit nervous saying this. It just gives me more of the day to go out and make my videos and edit them. Sometimes it's a rush to go out, come back, edit it, have lunch, and then come straight into the studio. Whereas if I do it about 4, this is quite calm, and then I've got time to go and light the Essie, cook some dinner, and come back and do the Vogue show. It might suit somebody like Ramiboo, who obviously is early in the morning. It puts it a little bit later in the morning if you're in America, I guess. Good early morning, as she so rightly says. I've never been to IKEA. No, I've never been in IKEA. I have no desire to buy IKEA. To me, it's abhorrent, but hey-ho. I'm sure they're a nice company if they want to sponsor me, but it's just not my thing, basically. Fine by me, says Audrey. Oh, that's good. 4 o'clock, 4 p.m., you reading twice. No, today there. No, you misunderstand. Willingly you misunderstand, you fool. That would be after my nap time, says Ed. But still okay, since it'll be over by noon. 4 p.m. might clash with my allotment. Oh dear. Can you check your allotment diary? I don't want to clash with the bean sprouts and the carrots. I don't want cabbages and tomatoes thrown at me, albeit on the screen. I don't know why I'm gulping this down, because I'll have nothing to wet my whistle with. Right, anyway, let's... the last bit we were talking about was Leicester Square, the 2 different Leicester Squares. So this is still chapter 1, I go to Kent. And I haven't pre-read it, I'm afraid. I probably won't get a chance to pre-read the chapters now because, as you will see, tomorrow I'm launching a slightly new project. A new project. I'm altering slightly what I'm doing, and you'll see in the video that has yet to be edited. I've got to go and edit that. So that's cool. Kevin Smith says, whenever is best for you. Thank you. I mean, you can always watch a rerun, obviously. Anyway, lovely silver grey and old. The towers... Oh, yes, I've got to remember, it's 19... I say, old chaps, 1940, isn't it? Lovely, silver grey and old, the towers of Penhurst Place lift themselves above 400 acres of parkland. One glance tells you that this is a great house that has been added to generation by generation. It's not the creation of one age or one architectural fashion. Just pause there. I hope you can't hear the washing machine in the other room. I did put the washing machine on and I thought, oh, it's on spin at the moment. I hope that's not detracting. Hopefully you can't hear it. But I can hear it. It's detracting me, obviously, as I have now been detracted. Some of it is in grey stone, some of it is in red brick. Some of the windows are Gothic arches, most are Tudor. It is not a building so much as a growth, an expression of tremendous continuity. A commissionaire took my ticket and led me through an archway, which might have been in the Tower of London. We crossed a paved courtyard towards the old building, which looked as though a Gothic church had somehow become wedged in the surrounding masonry. This was the old hall, at the very heart of Penshurst Place. When we entered it, a place like an empty church, I was pleased to think that in a world so full of restlessness, a building can remain unchanged for 6 centuries or more. The hall of Penshurst is a baronial hall, which we have seen in the Christmas supplements, the hall in which the baron and his lady sit at the upper table, while scullions drag in the Yule log and the jester capers beside them. Now the hall lies silent and deserted, but in no way decayed, and, strangest of all, free from any sign of restoration. Tables and benches, which are said to be over 500 years old, stand around. The brick hearth is the centre of the floor, and so also are the fire dogs, against which logs are piled. The smoke, which must have filled the hall in clouds, had no way out, except through a hole in the roof, now filled in. Beneath the minstrel's gallery is a carved oak screen with 2 doors leading to the kitchens. And see that narrow glass peephole high up in the wall at the back, said the commissioner. That is the withdrawing room, so that the baron or his lady, when they had left the hall, could look down and see the retainers were behaving themselves. It looks straight down on the entrance to the kitchens. Now, if you go up that flight of stairs, my wife will meet you and show you the other parts of the house. Will she, by George? I was taken by the housekeeper, for so I imagined her to be, through room after room full of old furniture and pictures. I was shown the first cut glass chandeliers ever brought to England, and given, in a rare mood of generosity, by Queen Elizabeth to faithful old Sir Henry Sidney. I was shown the first folding card table ever made in England. As I went through these rooms, so crowded with fine furniture, I was conscious of all the centuries of living which were reflected in them. There were chairs that had been used by the Sidneys, and a couch on which Queen Elizabeth once reclined. There were chairs and tables of the Stuart period, and furniture of the Georgian age, all happily muddled up together, well used, well sat on by generations of men and women whose portraits gaze from the walls. Nowhere in those rooms was I for an instant free from some sombre or speculative scrutiny. The eyes of men, women, and children followed me about, men in doublet and hose, with their hands on their swords, cavaliers, pale, high-bosomed ladies, by Lely, groups of solemn pink-cheeked children. The stream of English life flowing steadily and strongly through that great house has deposited here a portrait, there a staircase, here a new emblazonment, there a set of stairs, or a great divan, as it has passed from room to room, century after century. Hever Castle, nearby, is a labour of one man's love, and a tribute to one man's wealth. But Penshurst Place, you will see, not a rich man's treasure trove, but the relics of a family whose members have been born, have lived, and have died within the same grey walls. As the housekeeper walked beside me, scattering scraps of little information as thorns. As the housekeeper walked beside me, scattering little scraps of information as one throws corn to a hen, I found myself thinking of great ladies lying in great beds with their heirs, while the genius of the English history brooded happily upon the scene. I think it probably true to say that men have slept in Penshurst Place every night since the Norman Conquest. There has not been a single night for these 870-odd years that some part of that house has not heard a human footfall. It was inhabited centuries before the Sidneys came into possession by a series of families beginning with the de Penchesters and ending with Sir Ralph Fane, a gallant soldier who was executed on Tower Hill for conspiracy by order of Edward VI in the year of 1552. His manor of Penshurst was immediately bestowed by the young king on his favourite tutor and chief steward, Sir William Sidney, a distinguished gentleman who had fought against the Moors in Spain, had commanded the English right wing at Flodden, and had been present with Henry VIII at the Field of Cloth of Gold. He was succeeded by his son, Sir Henry Sidney, the father of that paragon of all virtues, Sir Philip Sidney. In early boyhood, Sir Henry was brought up at court in constant companionship with Edward VI, and during the reign of Elizabeth he became, as his father, Sir William, and had been in the previous reign a faithful, honest and devoted servant to his sovereign. Honesty was one of Sir Henry's outstanding qualities. Indeed, Thomas Fuller might have been thinking of him when he wrote those admirable lines to the faithful minister, one who refuses to enrich himself in office. My starveling bull, oh woe is me, in pasture full, how lean is he. Poor Sir Henry learned that serving the Virgin Queen was indeed a lean employment. It was not for him at any rate what many modern lord would call good business. So utterly did he ruin himself in the course of filling a number of high appointments that he died under a load of debt, and so far as I know, only one groan escaped him as new honours came his way. When he was asked to become Lord Deputy of Ireland for the 4th time, the faithful minister bowed his head and wrote, I am now 54 years of age, toothless and trembling, being £5,000 in debt, yea, and 30,000 worse than I was at the time of my most dear king and master, King Edward VI. Blimey. In Ireland and in Wales, he served Elizabeth with rare distinction, and proved himself a soldier as well as statesman. But for all his virtue, it is so sad to relate that he received only the frowns of hard mistresses and a mountain of debt. His wife, too, Mary, daughter of John Dudley, Duke of Northumberland, made a terrible sacrifice for the Queen. When Elizabeth caught smallpox in 1562, Lady Mary nursed her so tenderly and continuously that she caught the disease and became so marked that for the rest of her life she feared to show her face in public. Sir Henry wrote of this, When I went to New Haven, I left a full fair lady in mine eye, at least, the fairest. Oh, I see. When I went to New Haven, I left a full fair lady in mine eye, at least the fairest. And when I returned, I found her as foul a lady as the smallpox could make her. Charming. Those two unhappy faithful servants of the ungrateful Elizabeth died within 4 months of one another, and lie together in Penshurst Church. I was shown 2 good portraits of Sir Henry and Lady Sidney. He, as one would imagine, is a grave, bearded man with full and eloquent eyes that have nothing to hide. She is pictured at full length, standing beside a chair, her left hand poised graciously over the back of it, with her right one supports a vial. A vial? A V-I-O-L. Vial? Vial? What is that? Almost as tall as herself. A vial? I can't pronounce it. She is a beautiful young woman, and as grave in expression as her husband. Her large eyes gaze from beneath the arched plucked eyebrows. She wears a gown of sprigged brocade, whose skirt falls outward in folds over an underskirt, and her waist is pinched into a tight V-shaped bodice of the same brocade. Her sleeves are slashed with transparent muslin that shows her arms beneath, and they are caught up with little bows of velvet. A ruff of the thinnest muslin raises like a dropped halo from her shoulders and almost frames her neat head. Such were the father and mother of the great Philip Sidney. Many a fine portrait of Philip Sidney is to be seen at Penshurst, but there are also other memories of him, some quite improbable. Among these I include his shaving mirror. If the table knives and forks, formerly in the possession of the Wolfe family, excite visitors at Westerham, what must be the emotion of the visitors to Penshurst who can actually look at themselves in the mirror in which Sir Philip Sidney regarded his chin every morning? It is a round piece of magnifying glass set in a rough wooden frame, and, said the housekeeper, it was brought home with his effects after his death at the siege of Zutphen. Zutphen? I suppose every schoolboy knows the story of the soldier and the drink of water, how, when Sidney was badly wounded at Zutphen and parched with thirst, he saw a wounded soldier gazing longingly at his flask of water, and with the words, "Thy necessity is yet greater than mine," he handed it to the man. Oh, wait a minute, who's he? He's talking to the other bloke. Sorry, I got the wrong person there. "Thy necessity is greater than thine," and he handed it to the man. That is a true story, and it carries down the ages of chivalry and the generosity of one of the best-loved Englishmen in history. Although Sidney was only 32 when he died, he commanded the affection of his age. Those who have attempted to walk through his Arcadia, stopping now and then to look at the gate at a flowery mead, look over a gate at a flowery mead before plodding on again, perhaps find it difficult to understand why they thought so highly of him as a poet. No doubt they had more leisure to read him in those days. But some part of his secret fame was that he had great qualities of heart, mind, and character, which, together with his other graceful and manly accomplishments, made him a perfectly balanced and devoted human being, or even developed human being. There is a fine portrait at Penshurst of Philip's sister, Mary, who became Countess of Pembroke. Brother and sister were remarkably alike, and their affection for one another added yet another touch of perfection to Sidney's life and character. Even modern biographers, who have developed to a high degree the lucrative art of dethroning popular idols, have been defeated by Philip and Mary. She outlived him by 35 years, and is immortalised by perhaps the most beautiful epitaph ever written, lines attributed to Ben Jonson. "Underneath this marble hearse lies the subject of all verse, Sidney's sister, Pembroke's mother, death ere thou hast slain another. Wise and fair and good as she, time shall throw a dart at thee." Very beautiful, very, very beautiful. I don't know whether it's supposed to be humorous or not. Philip Sidney's death occurred at the very heyday of his fame. On the morning of the Battle of Zutphen, has anybody given me the Zutphen pronunciation? Because I keep saying it. I can't hear the washing machine, but I've got you on top of the pond filter, and it's gurgling away. Marvellous. Washing machine, bloody luxury. To clean clothes, we had to go to river, break ice, bash our clothes between two rocks. Thy no, oh, that were luxury. Aye, happen that when I used to wash clothes, had to wear them, attach them to dog, let dog swim through swamp, and had to fish him out at end of stream by hook and by crook. Aye, you were lucky, you were. Yeah, we could go on forever with that one. Clothes, you were lucky you had clothes. We go into game. We had fertilizer bags tied with baling twine. Oh, clothes. If only we had clothes. I'm trying to listen, says Busy Bee. I'm so sorry. Michael Angel, his wife didn't come up to scratch. No, I don't think she did. Viol, like cello. Oh, cello, viol. Oh, right. Oh, okay. It's a big violin. Oh, is it a viol? Oh, she had a big viol, did she? Oh, I see. Thank you very much. It's viol. It's a sort of early cello, says Stuart. Thank you, Stuart. Hello. Ramiboo. Who knows what a viol is? Everyone apart from me, it seems. Viol, a musical instrument of the Renaissance and Baroque periods, typically six-stringed, held vertically and played with a bow. This hand probably does something. Did Sidney fall off his horse in battle? I don't know. One way to pronounce it was viol. The other was viol, which the instrument makes when it is used as short violin. Viol, 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 viol. Is this place Zutphen? Is that how it's pronounced? Zutphen? Z-U-T-P-H-E-N. Zutphen. I don't know. Anyway, where was I? Sidney's death. Oh, yeah, Sidney's death. Sidney's death occurred at the very heyday of his fame. On the morning of the Battle of Zutphen, he happened to meet Sir William Pelham, who had admitted to put on leg armour. Sidney, unwilling to go into battle, armed and protected better than his friend, quixotically, is that it? Quixotically? Threw off his own leg armour, and of course it was upon the leg just above the knee that he was hit by a musket shot later. Any modern surgeon might have saved his life, but the wound mortified, and he died, having suffered great pain for 26 days. Zutphen. Oh, thanks. Zutphen. The Battle of Zutphen. Here's the Battle of Zutphen news, straight from the front. Philip Sidney has died from a bullet to the knee. Or the lower leg, or wherever it was. As his father before him, he died in debt. The Low Countries offered to spend half a ton of gold if they might... What? The Low Countries offered to spend half a ton of gold if they might have the honour of burying him, but it was decided to bring his body home. He came in a ship with black sails on a November day in 1586, and his body lay unburied for 3 months because no one was willing to advance the sum necessary for a suitable burial. Blimey. The desire to spend everything on a fine funeral, for which poor people are rebuked so often in these days, is an old and aristocratic English instinct, and the only people nowadays who bury their dead with a lavishness which can compare to that of the lords of medieval and Elizabethan times are our poorest citizens. Sidney's funeral was in the great tradition... Sidney's funeral was in the great tradition. Sorry, there was a full stop there. Several hundred mourners followed him to the old St. Paul's. Oh, I guess this is in 1586, so before the Great Fire of London, where old St. Paul's burnt down, and new St. Paul's built by Christopher, designed by Christopher Wren. I'm sure he didn't build it by hand. Was that later erected? So 700 mourners followed him to Old St. Paul's, and the grief caused by his death has rarely been exceeded in England. Maybe Lady Di now, since then, in the 80s, whenever it was. That Philip Sidney could have thrown away his life in the Low Countries is, I think, one of the tragedies of English history. It would be interesting to speculate on the part he may have played had he been spared to live in the Stuart age. Also, one wonders what way history and literature would have been enriched had he been allowed to go off to America and help to colonise that country as he wanted to do. He received from Elizabeth in 1583 almost the first charter enabling him to go out as a colonist. 2 years later, he was concerned with Francis Drake and 30 noblemen in secretly planning to fit out a fleet and sail for the Americas. But the plan came to nothing. Elizabeth put her foot down and refused to let Philip go. So instead, he met his untimely death at Zutphen. There was one more picture which interested me greatly at Penshurst. It was a large and rather crude representation of an Elizabethan dance. The central figures are Queen Elizabeth and the Earl of Leicester. It was quite a surprising picture of the Queen, and the only one I know which shows her in what must have been an unguarded moment. Leicester and the Queen are seen in the act of performing an extraordinary pas de deux. He appears to be grasping Her Majesty firmly by the bodice and lifting her into the air like a ballet dancer, and there, most comically, the great Queen in her jewels and ruff hangs suspended, wearing an expression due to the limitations of the artist. Wearing an expression due to the limitations of the artist. Oh, okay. The housekeeper could tell me nothing about this picture, which is simply Queen Elizabeth dancing with the Earl of Leicester. But it occurred to me that it must be a representation of a noticeable incident during Leicester's entertainment of the Queen at Kenilworth in 1575. One evening, the Queen was present at a remarkable exhibition of dancing given by an Italian and well described by Robert Laneham, a servant of the Earl's. There was shown before Her Highness, he wrote, by an Italian, such feats of agility in goings and turnings, tumblings, castings, hops, jumps, leaps, skips, springs, gambols, somersaults, caprettes, I may have read that wrong or written it wrong, and flights forward and backward, sideways, and downward and upward, and with such sundry windings, gyrations, and circumflections as by me it is not expressible by pen or speech. I tell you plain. So here, if I am right, we have what looks like an extremely faithful picture of our great Queen attempting to emulate an agile Italian in his caprettes and flights. No idea what a capretti is. Capretties. Capretties. Comprette. Must be a ballet move or something, like a jeté. My grandfather told me his mother bought 5 black horse from over Belgium to draw my grandfather's hearse, but never paid for them afterwards. Had woman, LOL. Oh. Not sure what that means, but we'll go with it. Oops. Falling off my little thing. When I was travelling in Syria some years ago, I became interested in the life of that extraordinary woman, Lady Hester Stanhope, a niece of the great Lord Chatham, who cut herself off from England and went to live in barbaric state in the hills of the Lebanon above Beirut. Every traveller of note who went to Syria in the 19th century sought an audience with her, which was not always granted, and nearly every book of travel or reminiscences written at the time gives an account of her strange receptions, her Eastern dress, her pipe smoking, her Arab guards, her belief in magic and prophecy, and her exhausting harangues to those who had penetrated her mountain fastness. On one occasion, in the year 1819, a young Englishman who had been lectured by her for several hours fainted from fatigue. She summoned her servants to revive him, and quietly remarked that he had been overpowered in listening to the state of disgrace to which his country had been reduced by its ministers. Let me just read that last bit. She remarked to him that he'd been overpowered in listening to the state of disgrace to which his country had been reduced by its ministers. She was a woman, of great force of character. She possessed a remarkably acute mind and a tongue of a serpent. And she was for several years the most important person in Syria. Her spies covered the country. They told her everything, and she combined the airs of an oriental potentate with open-hearted generosity to the poor. The Arabs and the wild Druzes of Lebanon regarded her with a veneration that bordered on worship. I've sometimes thought that, had she been a man, she might have done great things in the world, instead of merely taking a place of the attractive but overcrowded gallery of English eccentricity. She was in love with Sir John Moore, and after his death she turned her steps and her heart away from England, and neither saw nor wished to see this country again. There is a pathetic account of her death in Thomson's The Land and the Book. She died on a hot June day in the year 1839, and the British consul at Beirut, together with Thomson, who was an American missionary, made a fatiguing journey into the mountains to bury her. They found a scene of frightful and sordid confusion. The place was crowded with her servants, and her body lain on a divan, wrapped in waxed cloths, dipped in turpentine and spirits. The 35 rooms of her rambling palace were mostly full of trash. One was piled with old oil jars, another with moth-eaten Arab saddles, a third with pipe stems, and others with books and papers. Anything of value had been stolen the moment life had left her. "What a death," commented Thomson. "Without a European attendant, without a friend, male or female, alone on the top of this bleak mountain. Such was the end of the once gay and brilliant niece of Pitt." The burial took place at night, in the dead of night, in her garden. A vault had been opened for the purpose, where years ago a French general who had died during a visit to her and had been interred. Thomson said that they went with torches and lanterns down the winding paths. "I took a wrong path and wandered some time in the mazes of these labyrinths," he wrote. "When at length I entered the arbour, the first thing I saw were the bones of the general in a ghastly heap, with the head on top, having a lighted taper stuck in each eye socket. A hideous, grinning spectacle. It was difficult to proceed with the service under circumstances so novel and bewildering." The consul subsequently remarked that there were curious coincidences between this and the burial of Sir John Moore, her ladyship's early love. "In silence on the lone mountain at midnight, our lanterns dimly burned, with the flag of her country over it. She lay like a warrior taking his rest, and we left her alone in her glory." The ancestral home of the Stanhopes is at Chevening Place in Kent, a few miles northwest of Sevenoaks. At this point, the old Pilgrim's Way from Winchester to Canterbury drops down from Surrey into Kent, and until 1792 the road used to run through Chevening. I don't know how you pronounce this. It's either Chevening, I can't pronounce it. Chevening. Maybe it's Chevening, is it? Chevening? Until 1792, the road used to run through Chevening Park. The house is not shown to the public, but Lord Stanhope was kind enough to say that if I would wait until he could spare a day from his duties in London, he would show me a few relics of Lady Hester which remain in the family. Therefore, on a Saturday afternoon, I went to Chevering. The house, which stands in a splendid park, is a good example of those formal town houses which Inigo Jones and his contemporaries planted so uncompromisingly amid the green meadows and the woodlands of England. It remains today, much as it left the restless hands of the third Earl, who, to the dismay of his descendants, covered the fine red brick with cream-coloured tiles, thus ruining the exterior. It is a tall, disguised Stuart house, with 2 curving wings on each side, enclosing a wide entranced courtyard separated from the park by iron railings. It is a house that seems still to live in an atmosphere of 4-horse coaches, and I felt that a motor car looked rather ill at ease in the courtyard. The present Earl is the 7th holder of the title, which began with General James Stanhope, who played a great part in helping George I to the throne. All the Stanhopes have been distinguished servants of the state. One of them, the 3rd Earl and the father of Hester Stanhope, was almost a genius, and the 5th Earl was the author of the Standard Life of William Pitt and many other well-known historical works. Each peer was painted by one of the best artists of his day, so that the dining-room walls of Chevering show a complete record of the family from the 1st Earl of Marlborough's time to the father of the present Lord Stanhope. Through the windows of this room you look out to the park rolling away towards woodlands, and in the foreground is a lake on which was launched the first vessel ever propelled by steam. This was an invention of Charles, the 3rd Earl, who was an entertaining character who was as entertaining a character. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Let me just read that again, because I enjoyed trying to conquer these sentences. This was the propelled thing by steam. This was an invention of Charles, the 3rd Earl, who was as entertaining a character as his daughter Hester, and from him she undoubtedly inherited much of her unusual temperament. You see, the eyes dance about. He was the red peer of his day because of his interest in the French Revolution. Interested in the French Revolution. I was right the first time, and then I kept thinking, oh, what do you mean revolution? Like a revolving, and then because they were revolting. I've got it, brain. He took down the coronets from the front of Chevening. I can't even carry on pronouncing this. Chevening. What is this? Chevening. Yes, thank you. I know, I'm struggling it. Did he say, yes, Capetti, did I spell it right? It also means kid in Italian. Oh, right. I don't know how you pronounce that either. Cladding was common. The Georges didn't like red brick. The Spencer family home is the same. Ah, right. Oh, okay. Cladding. So anyway, he took down the coronets from the front of Chevening. He took down the coronets from the front of Chevening and horrified the polite world by appearing at court with unpowdered hair. He then discarded all signs of rank and wished to be known as Citizen Stanhope, but he modified his opinions in later life and put back the coronets. He had a wild and tempestuous eye and a clever face. There is a full-length portrait of him by Gainsborough at Chevening, which was left unfinished by the artist's death. Among his inventions were many solid contributions to science, as well as others which, although nothing came of them, strangely anticipated future inventions. In fact, he had a queer genius for producing ideas which were just a little too advanced for the time. Lord Stanhope showed me a beautifully made ready reckoner, which his ancestor perfected nearly 200 years ago. The principle is precisely the same as that employed in the machines used in banks and offices today. Then his printing press inventions are well known and still bear his name. He perfected a process of stereotyping, which he allowed the Clarendon press to acquire on the understanding that they gave his foreman £4,000. He gave away many other valuable printing inventions. He also invented the Stanhope lens for testing the skins of fever patients. Like most inventors, he held some alarming experiments. Convinced that he'd hit upon an idea to render houses fireproof, he constructed a building in the grounds of Cheveningham, whatever it is, and invited a party of friends to inspect it. While they were inside, he piled wood around it and set fire to it. The flames leapt to a height of over 80 feet, but as the ancient account of the experiment puts it, not one of his imprisoned friends suffered the slightest inconvenience. It is a pity, however, that their comments have not been preserved. Yes, I bet. In the light of future events, the most remarkable of his inventions was the steamboat, for which he took out a patent as early as 1790. He spent 20 years and a great amount of money on it, and once announced in the House of Lords that ships would be propelled by steam. He was received with derision, and pronounced to be a little madder than usual. But he was unmoved. Some of your lordships now sitting here will live to see steamships crossing the Atlantic, he retorted amid general amusement. He nearly lived to see his prophecy come true, for he died in 1816, 3 years before the Savannah crossed the Atlantic in 23 days. His own steamboat did not perform wonders on the Chevening Lake. Chevening? Whatever you put there. Chevening. Why can't I remember it? Chevening. His own steamboat did not perform wonders on the Chevening Lake, but at least it worked. The interesting point about it was that Stanhope had not used the paddle box, but a vibrator, which worked backwards and forwards through the bottom of the boat, producing something like the action of a swan's foot in movement. With such a man for father, and William Pitt's sister for mother, Hester Stanhope could not, perhaps, fail to be a vivid and unusual woman. She was born at Chevening. She was born at Chevening in 1776 and spent much of her girlhood in saving her brothers and sisters from the perils of her father's experiments. She was probably too much like her father to be fond of him and was rarely happy at home. Her only congenial friend was her uncle William Pitt, for whom she kept house when she was in her 20s. As the Prime Minister's hostess, she met everybody. She distinguished herself by her wit, her beauty, and her high spirits. Pitt, it seems, was a bit afraid of her. On one occasion she managed to blacken the Premier's face with a burnt cork. I let her do as she pleases, said Pitt helplessly, for if she resolved to cheat the devil, she could do it. The contrast between the life in the heart of London politics and society and her masquerade as Queen of Lebanon is so strange to be almost incredible. Lord Stanhope showed me the relics that came home after her death. They were not numerous, but one of them is interesting and pathetic. It is a pendant containing a lock of Sir John Moore's hair. Who would have said that she had so much sentiment left in her? It was picked up in the bazaars of Beirut by a pillow by a traveller who realised its association, said Lord Stanhope, and it was sent back to Chevening. Having seen the bleak and terrible fastness in which Hester Stanhope spent her life, I was glad to have rounded off the picture with a glimpse of Chevening in Kent, and the quiet English scene from which she almost ferociously withdrew. I'm going to stop there, I think, for there is another... Blimey, this is a long old chapter, this. I'll show you some pictures. Let me just make a note of the page. Hope you're enjoying it. It's very different from the others. So, what have we got here? Penshurst Place is this one here. Sorry, my webcam's not working at the moment. That one there, Penshurst Place. Nice place to go and visit on a Bald Explorer episode, no doubt. And Chevening Place, Chevening Hall. I suppose if you told me it was like Chevening Hall, whoops, that is Chevening, which is small in the picture. Nice looking place. And that's your lot, I'm afraid. That is your lot. That's come out a bit wide, hasn't it? So there we are. I'm off to see a man in a moment who has converted his car into a camper car after watching my video that I made about a man who had about wanting to turn my car into a camper car. So I'm going to meet him and have a look at that at respectable distance and all of that. My grandfather told me my mother bought... Oh, he's read that. Well, when you live in a hole on a farm track, says Linda Kane. What did he... Oh, yes. I read The Cladding. My favourite book so far, says Michael Angel. Lots of fascinating bits of Englishness in there, isn't there? That's my gaff, says Turbo Stream. Oh, yes, you must invite us all round once it's all lifted, Adrian. We must pop round to your gaff. Lovely Julia says, there's a famous in British equestrian work, William Fox Pitt, who is a prominent rider in dressage and eventing. I wonder if it's a descendant. I bet it is. Yes, do go to Penshurst Place. It is wonderful, says Diana. Yes, I must do that. It's fascinating. I just hope I can remember all these things that I read. That's shallot. Yes. That's an onion. Oh, no, that's just my fingers holding nothing. Anyway, not been to Penshurst Place, says Andy Frierson, but that would definitely like to. Here's a question, you clever people out there. Now that we're in... You can go out for exercise and picnic and sit on the beach, interminably long. Do you think, or do you know, whether properties like the National Trust will be opening their gardens again? Not their houses, but just the gardens. And, maybe people can go there. I wonder if they're going to do that or if anybody knows. Hopefully, when this lockdown is over, you and Julia will be able to put those passes to use. I know, and I'm hoping. I mean, there we were. Mike Dixon bought us some passes, very generous, over £100, and we were going to go to a number of National Trust properties and then wallop. We've not been able to do a blooming thing, so there you go. Anyway, I must go. I've got to edit up tomorrow's video yet, and I've got to go meet a man with his car. And I've got the Vogue show to sort of get together, and I've got to light the essay and sort out some food. And then work out where I'm filming tomorrow, because I'm making an announcement in tomorrow's video, but I shall be out while that goes on. Probably in stage 3. Oh, probably in stage 3. Let's hope so. Be interesting to see if the NT announce anything. Yeah, because if we're all allowed out, I can't see why walking around their gardens and sitting in, outside Petworth House, if they're big gardens, that would be wonderful. Those spring blooms must be yes, absolutely. Just a thought. I often had these crazy thoughts. But thank you so much for watching. Very kind. I'll see you either later or anon or whatever. But, excuse me. It's been rather jolly. Until the next jolly outing, I'm enjoying that book, getting all that history. I'll probably forget all those characters that is spoken about by the end of it. But hey-ho. Linda Kane says, I'm sure they will if it's allowed. They did keep the gardens open before the block. Well, that's what I was thinking, actually, Linda. That's why I thought it would just give people more places to go. But I guess it's the car parks. That seems to be the headache for the government, is people apparently they park next to somebody else and they open the door and go, have some COVID, as they get out. Anyway, take care. I will catch up with you later on. All the best. Oh, and tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Don't forget, 4 o'clock, the reading. Till then, 4 o'clock British summer time, obviously. Bye-bye. See you later.